Welcome to Short Story Theatre. This is Basil Nightingale speaking. Our play today, written and narrated by Bill Russo, is called The Phantom of the Carolina Queen. We take you now to New England, and the calm waters of a tidal river in the birthplace of the American Navy, the city of Beverly, Massachusetts.
I was moored about 30 feet from shore in Beverly on the Danvers River, about 20 miles north of Boston. Like me, my boat, the Lazy G, was retired. We used to fish for tuna sometimes, but mostly for flounder. Back when them flatfish was plentiful, you could put down 2 or 3 lines and easily catch 100 a day. The money was good, and the work wasn't too hard on me or the Lazy G. Well, by the time it got so that you only would catch 15 or 20 in a day, it wasn't worth it no more. It wasn't worth the effort, so me and the Lazy G just quit. I mostly stayed on the boat after that and watched the world go by. I mean, whatever part of the world happened to be passing by on the tricky Danvers River. It's not a body of water for amateurs, you see. It's a tidal river. Parts of it disappear at low tide, and rookie boaters who don't know any better can get stuck in the mud and the sand for hours and hours until the tide rises up again. Every month or so, when I run out of supplies, I fire up the engine and idle my way upriver to where it empties out into the Atlantic Ocean. From there, it's a short trip to Beverly Harbor where I tie up the Lazy G at Glover's Wharf. I can use the facilities there to grab a shower and put on some clean street clothes along with my Boston Red Sox baseball cap. Then I go shopping. I buy enough supplies for about 2 more months of solitude before going back to the Danvers River. I haven't been to a ball game at Fenway Park for more than 10 years, but I'm still a member of Red Sox Nation and faithfully wear that hat summer and winter, don't you know? Well, I was planning to go right back to the boat after shopping, but on that bright day in June, filled up with sunshine, I got some news that changed everything. Me and the Lazy G was going to be putting out to sea again for the first time in many years. Well, don't you know, after I got out of that shower, I overheard a couple of sailors talking about the Carolina Queen. Yeah, she was spotted in the waters near Misery Island, about a mile from the city of Beverly. More than a dozen reliable witnesses had sighted her. They said there was no doubt about it. The ragged old ship moving slowly through calm waters with its tattered sails was the Carolina Queen herself. She was a 2-masted schooner, and she could carry 100 tons of cargo. Though when she went missing in 1787, her cargo didn't weigh nearly that much because she was carrying cotton. Her holds were stuffed to the gills with cotton bound for Beverly from the Carolinas. Now the city of Beverly at that time had the largest cotton mill in America, don't you know? And dozens of ships from the south was anchoring in Beverly Harbor, waiting their turn to unload their fluffy white cargo. The Carolina Queen was lost at sea in a brief but very violent storm on the night of June the 14th, in 1787. She was less than a day out of Beverly when she went missing. At first, it was thought that she sank along with her crew of 5 sailors. But within a few weeks, there were several spottings of the Carolina Queen in the seas less than a mile from Glover's Wharf. Using a spyglass, the sailors could see the stern of the ship, don't you know, and plainly read its name, the Carolina Queen. They saw something else, too, that her sails was ripped and shredded, and there was no sign of life on deck. For more than 100 years, she was sighted frequently. Sometimes expeditions was formed to reach the ship and bring her back to port. But every time a vessel got within a half a mile of the Queen, she disappeared like smoke rising into the air from a campfire. After the 1950s, sightings of the vessel were far less frequent, and by the 2020s, she was sighted just once or twice each summer. Well, I quickly finished my shopping, and I hurried back to tell the Lazy G that we were heading out to sea to capture the Carolina Queen. Later that day, the Lazy G and me were anchored in the bay, about 100 feet from Big Misery Island, about a mile from Glover's Wharf in Beverly across the ocean. Now, in the early 1900s, the island had a few dozen cottages, and there was even a 9-hole golf course. But these days, the island is uninhabited. Little Misery Island, right next to it, was pretty much a bay of rock and never had any living things on it other than a stray seagull or two. Well, don't you know, I had a suspicion that the Carolina Queen might show up again around Big Misery Island, because that's where she ran into trouble in that freak storm on the night of June 14th in 1787. Numerology, do you believe in it? Numerology. I'm not sure if I do or if I don't. But a lot of people say there is kind of like a mystical relationship between a number and one or more coinciding events. Numbers. It was June 9 when I was at Glover's Wharf and I heard that the Queen had been sighted. It was June 12 when I anchored off Big Misery Island, where she was battered by that violent storm. Now, I ain't a betting man, but if I was, I'd wager $20 that the Queen will make an appearance on June the 14th. That's the night she became a ghost ship. Well, sir, the night of June 12th was calm. The sea was almost as flat as glass. There was no wind, and the sky was full of fluffy white clouds that glowed from a moon that was almost full. The only sound to be heard was the gentle lapping of the waves as they rolled lazily onto the shores of Big Misery Island. The night of June 13 was a repeat of the 12th. The sky was calm, the sea was quiet, and the moon would be full in just one more night. The night of June 14th crept in slowly, pushing away the brightness of a warm June day. As the sun gave way to the full moon, the wind picked up. The waves, which had barely been ripples, began to morph into great mountains of angry seawater, bashing up against the sides of the Lazy G and rocking her back and forth like pancake batter being churned by a burly cook in the Navy. Well, sir, that storm grew even more fierce. The full moon, which had been shining brighter than a beacon from a lighthouse, was quickly extinguished as if it were nothing more than a match blown out by a massive cloud that came to life as a puffy giant with cheeks as wide as a football field, whose explosive breath blew the moon out of its orbit. As the wind howled, the waves became angry dark mountains of icy seawater that threatened to capsize the embattled Lazy G. Then, don't you know, the wind began to calm. The seas stopped rocking, and a dim light appeared in the sky. It was like the flame of a tiny sulfur match trying to light a soggy campfire. The flame flickered and almost went out. But ever so slowly, don't you know, it began to grow bigger and brighter. And soon the moon was back, big and bright. It illuminated the island and the sea and me and the Lazy G. The wind calmed. The ocean turned almost to glass, and coming round from the other side of Big Misery Island was a ship. A ship. I could plainly see that it was a two-masted schooner. A schooner. As it neared, I noticed that the sails was clinging to her masts, and they were shredded and tattered. It was the Carolina Queen. There was no doubt. It was the Queen, Aya, and she was headed straight for me and the Lazy G. Well, don't you know, she slowly closed the gap between us. Aya, when she was less than 100 feet away, I could see her decks, and I could see that they were bare. She had no captain. She had no crew, but she still held that cargo of cotton. She would be worth a fortune if I could get a rope on her and tow her back to Glover's Wharf.
They say that the morning of June 15th was the prettiest day ever in the city of Beverly, 25 miles north of Boston, in the heart of New England. It was 78 degrees by 10 in the morning, and that's about as hot as it usually gets in the summertime in Massachusetts. The ocean was calm. Business was brisk at Glover's Wharf, where they had berths for more than 100 boats. Jim Grant, the owner of the wharf, was standing with Ted Crockett, the harbormaster.
Good morning, Ted. I called you as soon as I saw it bumping up against the dock. There was nobody on board.
Thanks, Jim. Yes, that boat is the Lazy G. It belongs to old Billy Russell. He was here way before I became the harbor master. I think he's been around the North Shore since the 1940s.
That's right, Ted. He fished these waters back in the day when you could get tuna by the ton and catch 100 flounder a day. He must have fallen overboard in that freak storm we had last night. I was standing on the dock during the worst of it. I have got almost 100 boats here, and the people pay me to take care of them, so I thought I should be outside during the storm, even though I really couldn't have saved any of the boats if they got loose. Once or twice I thought I saw the Carolina Queen out there by Big Misery Island. Probably just my imagination.
Well, Jim, that could be. At any rate, as harbor master, I'm going to take my boat over to Big Misery. If old Billy Russell fell overboard, he might have washed up on the island. I'll check it out.
They never found the body of old Billy Russell. But every year around June 14th, the boaters in Beverly Harbor say that sometimes, in the light of a full moon, they see that old two-masted schooner, the Carolina Queen, sailing by Big Misery Island. They say that her sails have been mended. And what's more, they say they can see that there's a man on deck. In the light of the moon, they notice that he is wearing a hat. It is a baseball cap. A Boston Red Sox hat. That's our play for today. You've been listening to Bill Russo's Short Story Theater. We are on all podcast sites from Amazon and Apple, all the way through the alphabet. Many of our shows are also on YouTube. Thanks for listening and please come back again real soon. Won't you?